Hey, you guys are ready to record yet?
Hold on a minute, Milan. We have to eat our cake first.
Yeah, I have my cake. Ian, do you have your cake?
Nigga, you know I have my cake.
Oh, you guys bought cake to celebrate my birthday? Oh, that's so sweet. You guys are the best of friends. I mean, I know it's a little sad that I can't celebrate it with you, and I'm not there with you guys, but the thought is just great. Thank you. You guys are the best. I love you guys.
Oh, it's your birthday? Bill and I didn't know. We just bought cake because we wanted to celebrate our first Superman video.
What?
Look, in the sky. It's a bird.
Plane! No! It's Godzilla!
And go.
Hello, all ye faithful Gentiles of the seven-headed golden giraffe. This is your friend and compatriot Milan Jeptic 1992 here with my two terrifyingly geeky gentlemen, Ian and Bill, or if he prefers to be called Zazuba, that's fine too. And the subject that we're going to discuss today on this show of Geeky Gentlemen is the effective writing of Superman. Shall we begin?
And apparently we're going to discuss, and I'm going to apologize for him since he didn't in his intro. I'm going to apologize for Milan's, fuzzy mic. But, Bill, I think we should try to make everyone feel like this is done on purpose and be consistent. So I want you to get, real close up to your microphone right now and make a lot of and noises. And that way, people will feel like this is done on purpose and not just some shitty Australian guy who can't afford a friggin' microphone.
Alright.
Yep. Anyway, yes, Superman and effective writing. So that's, what makes a good Superman story? What about a Superman story is most effective? What about a Superman story is most compelling? What about the character what about the character makes a good story, and what about the writer makes a good story?
Yeah. The most interesting
Why did I
thing...
start out?
Sure, go for it.
Okay.
Well, no,
I
no, no.
really don't...
Juan, you already talked. I already talked. Bill, it's your turn to talk.
Okay, that's right. Good.
I just wanted to say, the thing that's most interesting to me about this topic is that Superman is strangely one of the most kind of controversial characters to like these days because a lot of people have the same exact problem with this character in his stories, that either he's extremely generic or he's almost kind of too holier than thou. Like kind of I'm better than you because I'm Superman. And that was something I never picked up on until people brought it up. And I just want,
Neither.
yeah, I never had that with Superman because he's kind of the exact opposite of that. He's really one of the most modest superheroes I have ever read in comics and seen on film.
I will agree with you, but I see the argument. They don't think that Superman is saying he's better than them. In philosophy, you're always supposed to be very generous in interpreting someone else's arguments. So that's what I'm doing right now.
Sure.
I'm interpreting the best side of what I could see coming from that. I mean, I'm sure there are people who do think that, what I was just talking about, but we're not talking about them. I feel like the holier than thou or the I'm better than you is that kind of that moral absolutism that Superman projects, and he definitely does project this, God figure, this, man that can never possibly do anything wrong kind of mentality. And the way people are seeing that is not that Superman sees himself as better than them, but that they think he sees himself as better than them. Even though, like, you could probably never point to an instance where Superman is being written in his normal character role, thinking that, oh, I'm better than people. They should just listen to me. Like, he's struggled with the feelings, but he's never come out and said that's how he feels. Like, he's struggled with that temptation to, just rule people, but he's never come out and said, no, I'm just, like, he's never had that parent mentality, Remember when you were a little kid and your parents, because it's good, because I said so kind of mentality. He's never had that.
He's always been a very much so leading by example kind of character. And the example And the example I'm going to point to is the recent film Superman versus the Elite. I loved it. I know a lot of people had their problems with it. I loved it. And the thing is that Superman came kind of close in the end to being a little holier than thou, but he didn't. Because that was an instance where Superman was written in a way where if you're not a Superman fan and you're someone who has the ideas that me and Ian and Milan were just talking about how, Superman feels that he's better than everyone, if you're not familiar with Superman, then you can kind of get that from it. But the thing is that in the end, he does prove that, the point of the film is that Superman doesn't condone violence. And he does it by exemplifying what's wrong with it. He doesn't just get up on a pedestal and say, listen, all you silly humans, I am Superman, and you better listen to me and not kill each other anymore or some kind of revenge or anything. And then he shows why by kind of going down to that place and showing why it's bad. It's brilliant. And that's how I like my Superman written, a demonstrating by example kind of character.
I know, yeah, and the thing that I really like about that movie is that when the Superman just kind of tricks the Elite and says, like, you know what, you're right, I'm gonna start killing people.
Yeah.
And that moment where they're like, oh fuck, what have we done?
Yeah, it's so cool. Like when they're all on the moon, they're just like, oh shit.
That was good. To me, the moment that was better, even before that, was when all the people were watching the TVs and stuff, and the one guy, he's just this normal dude on the street, says, I mean, yeah, I agree with the Elite that we should be taking down some of these other people, but it's Superman. Like, when they were, like, in the middle of killing Superman, that moment did it for me even more, because that proved Superman was right even before he had to go to the extreme lengths that he did. It proved that he was right when you saw a normal person just completely change his attitude about everything the Elite were doing and saying. Yeah. I mean, that really did it for me in a much subtler way. Don't get me wrong, I loved what they did after the fact, where, you saw the horrifying, big-eyed Superman, but just that instant of the guy saying, but it's Superman, was just perfect, because it captured exactly how I think anyone would feel in that situation.
And that's why I really like Superman. That's what really makes him stand out as a character for me. Because, I mean, if you really think about it, a morally compromised Superman would be just... I don't know if you guys have read this book, but it's called Irredeemable. It's basically about what if a Superman-level superhero basically went insane and started, carving his name upon the earth, this heat vision from freaking orbit, and just killing people, like, willy-nilly. I mean, a morally compromised Superman is just terrifying. And, like, I don't know, just being Russian, it's just like, oh my god, this is a man with power, and he hasn't been corrupted yet? My god.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. That reminds me, everyone, I'm hoping you're enjoying our title card this week. I worked pretty hard on that. Milan helped out a little bit. The image attached to myself, you can download, and I actually have a t-shirt of that. If you'd like to make yourself a t-shirt, feel free.
Yes.
And the image for Zazubar, which we will not mention because he hasn't seen it, I also did the color on, and I'm sure many people will enjoy that. So
Can't wait
there,
to see
there
it.
you go.
Cracking my pants
You
to
can
see it.
download that image on its own, and there's a transparency of it, so you can put it wherever you'd like. Just email me if you'd like a transparency of that.
Nobody cares about my image, though.
Your
'Cause you're
image
Milan.
your image is like, Milan, no lie. I don't mean this in an insulting way, but to totally speak in an insulting way, your image is the crappiest thing on there. And I think it works because you are the crappiest thing on this show.
Oh, thank you, Ian.
And our
Thank
Arkham
you
name
so
tags
much.
last week embodied that.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, well, I was a patient, so what do you expect? You guys were
No, you weren't
doctors.
patient. Actually, I looked at it. I couldn't put a picture in with the patient one, so we were all doctors.
Yes.
And to be honest, I would be horrified if any of us were doctors at Arkham.
Oh my god. Oh, but
Hey,
that's-
Scarecrow, can I have some of that toxin? I'm really feeling kind of upbeat today. I want to kind of bring myself down a little bit.
I would feel a little uppity. We already did a video, like 2 hour and a half video on Arkham Asylum. This is Superman time, god damn it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
We're already getting into
Anyway,
tangent.
just to grind, stick the knife in there and twist it a little bit, to quote Talia, since we're talking about old videos. Just to twist it in there a little bit. Milan, I think that if I were to take all the uhs and ums and and ahs out of our podcasts or videos or whatever you want to call it, they'd be about an hour shorter, and you're responsible for all of them.
Thank you, Ian. Thank you for being honest, and I really appreciate that about you. You're completely free to be an asshole, and thank you very much. I'll be
Ian-
right back.
Ian, when you
Yes.
go and do the editing for this, I want you to put a picture of a puppy crying in the background, because that's how I imagine Milan's soul right now. Just stick that in the background.
Duly noted. If you can hear me typing, that's because I'm actually duly noting that.
And Milan just went to go kill himself, and in the meantime, Ian and I will get back to Superman.
Okay, Superman. Yeah, I did like Superman vs. the Elite. I've been reading up and watching Superman this week just because I'm not a big Superman fan. I'm a mild fan from time to time, but here's the point I find about the character to get to the effective writing point of it. I find that the character is pretty good, but when something good is done with him, I credit it almost entirely to the writer. See, the thing is, with a character like Batman, when you got Batman and you have his world, versus having Superman in his world, alright? Like their little, self-contained mini-universes within the larger universe.
Mm-hmm.
You can write a Batman story, and it cannot be a good Batman story, but it can still be an okay story. How many filler issues of Batman are there in comic boxes in the world?
Oh god.
It's
a lot.
Yeah. When you read a Batman filler issue, it's never bad. It's never a horrible Batman story or anything. It's just meh. And the reason for that is because he's such a good character and he has such a great world that it's really hard to do something bad with him. Now, don't get me wrong. People have tried and succeeded, but it's really hard. You really have to try. But with Superman, it's such a flat world from time to time, and
It definitely is.
When you write that character, you really have to know what you're doing, because there are a lot of bad Superman stories. There's a lot of filler Superman stories too, but there's a lot more bad Superman stories than there are filler Superman stories.
The thing is that really
In
gets
my
me about
opinion, I can't objectively state this, but that's just how I feel.
I mean, I disagree a little bit with the whole. It's very hard to write a bad Batman story thing, because I've read bad Batman stories, but because I think you have to bring some level of effort into it to write anything that's even generic.
You have to really not know what you're doing at all. Like we have to wonder who gave this child the keys to the car.
Yeah.
And I do
And the
ultimately
thing
have to
about
agree with your overall. Well, I don't mean to say this quick, and then you can go ahead. But I just want to say overall, I agree with your point that Batman's world is a lot more interesting than Superman's world, and it's a lot easier to dig up stuff to bring up in a Batman story than Superman. I'll agree with you
that's
there.
my point. Is that there's a lot of filler in Batman because it's not necessarily bad storytelling. It's just meh, and it's just meh and not bad storytelling because the world and the characters are intrinsically interesting, whereas Superman's world and characters are not, unless your writer is really creative and doing something really interesting with them. I find it.
So go
I
ahead.
find it worth pointing out that like I had a hard time. Like I went to my comic book store and I asked, "You got any good Superman one-shots or trades where it's like just his standard, status quo that's going on, like no Elseworlds tales, no changing wrench in the gears thing, and no team-up books." And they're like, Superman, Brainiac. We don't have Birthright, but I'd recommend that. And that's about all I can think of.
The thing is, there really has to the writer really does have to have a certain level of vision to write Superman properly, because like Grant Morrison, you have to
Can we
have a real
Milan, not to cut you off, but to totally cut you off, can we not talk about Grant Morrison in this video? Because I feel like we talk about Grant Morrison in every video.
I was about to say the same thing, but I was waiting for Milan to
like we could talk about All-Star a little bit later down the line, but I feel like we kind of need to get off Grant Morrison's dick for a little bit.
Okay, but I'm not really talking about Grant Morrison, but someone with that level of creativity.
Vision.
I mean,
yeah,
vision, indeed, yeah. I mean, Superman's world, sure, given to a person who has no vision, and that's just copying the Donner movies. Sure, the world can come off a little flat, but Superman
Returns.
Yeah, Superman Returns. But
I still like that movie. Guilty pleasure.
The thing is, I mean, Superman's world. I mean, you got like Kandor, a city in a jar, just these really amazing,
the bizarre Silver Age stuff. He's one of the few characters that kept most of his bizarre Silver Age stuff. I mean, sure, there's still no Super Monkey, but like a lot of the stuff, like Crypto is still in mainline continuity. Kandor, Kandor. Like, there's a lot of Superman stuff that's stuck from the Silver Age, and not many characters have that still. Well, most characters completely abandon their Silver Age, but Superman has a lot of his Silver Age still intact. And if it wasn't for Morrison, Batman wouldn't either.
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing. With Superman, it's easier to swallow it because you've immediately got an out-there premise with Superman.
True.
And I mean, people have tried to make Superman somewhat realistic, and to varying degrees have succeeded. Earth 1, to a degree, is somewhat realistic.
That's good.
To as much of an extent as you can make Superman. I don't think Superman has to be realistic. I think
No, not at all.
I think injecting an element of realism into the story is interesting and a good idea, but to make Superman realistic is to kind of go against the original point of Superman, which was escapist entertainment. And
I have to disagree with that a little bit because
Superman was intended to be escapist entertainment. Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster loved escapist sci-fi because guess what? They were two guys from the Midwest, and there's something about the Midwest that just makes you want to murder your neighbors or flee the earth. And you have to find some way to channel that.
Charlton Heston from Planet of the Apes.
Exactly, he fled the
same
earth.
town as Ian.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah.
I still find that odd. For those of you that don't know, Charlton Heston's character in Planet of the Apes, Taylor, was actually from Fort Wayne. And the elementary school he went to is actually an elementary school in Fort Wayne.
Did you go there?
Nope.
Oh.
I went to the special kids school that we got a film program, and oddly enough, that has absolutely nothing to do with why I'm in film today.
Wow.
I learned the words pan and zoom in 3rd grade, and that was about it. Biography time.
So we keep totally cutting Milan's points down. So I think we should let
but he's got this fuzzy microphone, and no one cares what he thinks anyway.
Let's give him one tangent.
Fine, go ahead, Milan. Bill and I will remain quiet for 30 seconds, and go.
I mean, the Joe Shuster stuff. I mean, that was just Superman was the guy that went. I mean, and I hate the fact that when people portray him, Superman is naive, and we need to bring Batman in to solve all the problems because Batman is the streetwise, cool guy who knows the score and all that stuff, and Superman's like the rookie cop. Superman is a reporter. I mean, in his very first issue that Action Comics that ever came out, he saved a woman from being that was about to be executed. I mean, and that's another thing. You gotta give Superman things to do. I mean, the best way to write Superman is to get him just to begin the story at the end part of a story that's already finishing, like the Action Comics one in the New 52. You start in like straight in the action. You're like Superman is invading the room of a corrupt businessman or saving somebody or doing something. And that's the thing. You've got to give Superman things to do. He has all this wonderful power and just so much potential. And people just like, oh, let's get him to fight Brainiac for the 100th time and Lex Luthor. I mean, people should. There's such a well of interesting ideas there, and people don't use it at all. They want to hey, let's make it too realistic. I mean, sure, realism could be an interesting, gimmick for Superman, and it'd be interesting. But god damn it, it's a man flying in freaking blue pajamas.
Not anymore. Now it's blue armor.
Blue armor.
To your point about giving Superman something to do, and to tie this closer to the topic. Let's talk about something that was effective and very quickly became ineffective. That being the JMS run on Superman right before the New 52 started.
A walkabout, you mean?
Yeah, whatever that was called. I mean, did you read that first issue of that?
Oh, crap.
Anyone?
I'm here. I didn't. Milan just got lost.
Oh, did it?
I saw a review of it. I didn't actually read the issue myself, but I know what happened in it.
Well, like, the scene that really got me for that was when there's a woman or a man, I can't remember. There's a character on a ledge threatening to jump, and Superman, instead of going and just grabbing them or anything like that, he goes and he flies up there and he says he'll wait till they're ready and he'll only catch them if they fall, but he won't force them down, and he talks her down. And he sits there floating, and they have a conversation, and he gives her, hope, and he gives her a reason to live. That was fantastic.
Yeah.
Amazing Superman writing. And then I stopped reading it because it got really, really bad. Really fast once JMS left that book. So to my point is, and he'd even given them the notes, the plot notes for how to continue the story, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like the writer that picked it up, he gave them the notes on how to continue the story, but it was ineffective because the writer wasn't up to task. This goes back to my other point, it's the writer that makes the characters' stories effective. It's not the character.
I agree. I do agree. And
well, hold on. That's way too broad because that's true in almost any sense. It's the writer that makes the characters' stories more effective, and not the character. Whereas in a Batman book, the character adds a lot to making the stories effective, more so than the writer brings.
I'll agree. The thing with Batman is that, a new Batman story is coming out. Okay, cool. I'm going to pick it up because I'm a Batman fan. Now,
Yep.
I'm also a big fan of Superman, but I'm not currently reading the Superman Monthly. The only thing that I'm reading Action Comics, but that's been consistently good for the most part. And the thing with the Superman Monthly is that I'm only going to read it when there's something interesting going on. It's not just the fact that Superman's in it that I'm going to pick it up. That's, I'm picking up the Batman Monthly for that reason too, but it doesn't hurt that it's good too. So I feel like with Superman more so than Batman, you have to be doing something with him as opposed to just it being a Superman book. Like, I'm only going to pick it up if you're doing something with it that's good and either I haven't seen before or I've seen before, or they're doing it in a way where I want to see it again. So that's kind of my thing with Superman, especially the monthly. But Action Comics has been, for the most part, good. So that's why I'm consistently buying that. But that's just kind of, I agree with you, Ian.
Yeah, Action Comics is great. I'm back, by the way.
Yeah, Milan,
I'm back!
just to let you know, just if you get dropped for whatever reason, I'm sorry guys, this is a technical thing, but just to, for our sake, if anyone gets dropped, come back as soon as you can, but come back quiet and let us know you're back in the text, okay?
Okay.
Sure.
Okay, sorry. All right.
Because I remember this happened last week too, and you came in just, I am back. Well, that was annoying because Bill was talking.
Uh,
Yeah, Bill, I agree. It's a thing. It's just one of those things about Superman, and I was never a Superman fan. The one that really did it for me was watching the Donner films, because like I'd never like I'd seen them on TV, seen bits and pieces, but I'd never sat down and watched them.
Mhm.
And those probably, in my mind, are the two that those are 3 and 2 on my top Superman stories.
Oh yeah.
And part of that is, I'm sure, the performance of Christopher Reeve and the score of John Williams and the
Yeah.
overall ambiance of the film. But overall, those are 2 of my favorite Superman stories. Number 1, of course, being All Star, but
Yeah.
and this
Yeah.
is coming from someone who's not a huge Superman fan, so that, I'm sure there are better Superman stories, anyone can argue, but those are my favorites. And I feel like the Donner films probably did it the best to this realistic quote-unquote tone. Obviously, it's a stylized universe and stuff like that,
Yeah.
but
Absolutely.
the thing I love about it is the marketing campaign for the Donner films.
You can believe a man can fly.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what the poster says. It'll make you believe a man can fly. And nowadays,
There's
of
no-
course not. Nowadays, of course not, because the effects are completely outdated. But for the time,
Yeah.
that was amazing. And
Yeah.
it looked so real for the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think there's a big
Well,
difference between believability in film and making something realistic, and I think the Superman films are a great well, for the most part, to make a good testament to that, because it's not the idea of a man flying that's realistic. It's the way it's presented.
Mhm.
And the way it's presented is that in this particular universe, this guy's flying, and
Mhm.
because of that, you believe
Yeah.
it, and you get wrapped up in the story.
And that can be
Yeah.
said many different things.
Yeah, and I want to go back to a point you were making earlier, Ian, about liking the Donner films over a lot of other Superman continuity and
Yeah.
Superman stories.
And the same can be said with any sort of superhero.
Yeah, and the thing is that the thing about the Donner films that really impresses me and makes them top quality Superman stuff is that they take the established material of the comics, which up until that point was for the most part a very simplistic comic book universe of just good guys fighting bad guys, and taking that and elaborating on it, elaborating on the backgrounds of the characters, elaborating on the way stuff works. I don't think there was ever
Yeah.
as much of a complex origin for Superman as there is in the Donner films, or as complex of an explanation for what the Forces of Solitude is. All this different stuff.
Yeah.
How Superman finds out he's Kryptonian. All this stuff is very interestingly woven into the story and elaborated on in such a way where it's believable, sure, but it's also so interesting. And that's
Mhm.
what makes Superman worthwhile, is the way it's elaborated on. So
I
I
actually
agree.
want to share a trailer with you
Yeah.
two. Like I was saying this earlier, and I mean, we can complain about this movie, and here's another good place to go from incredibly interesting idea that could be effective to poor execution that makes it ineffective.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can find this trailer real quick. I think I have a link to it somewhere in here. And
And another thing, Superman is not a dark character. I mean, he can explore dark subject matter, but he's not Batman. I mean, Superman is not a person who broods. I mean, Superman is the first light of comic books, and Batman is the very first shadow. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think the thing with Superman is that. Oh no, continue, please. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. It's Superman. He is a person that can deal with anything, but the thing is, if you don't give him anything to deal with, then he's not interesting. And the thing that I really like about the '80s Superman comic books is that they gave him things to do. Sure, mullet, and just forget the mullet. Just ignore the mullet. But
Oh, you
the
mean the
art was
90s?
great. The '90s, yeah, the '90s, yeah. They gave him stuff to do. He was fighting villains. He was going out with Lois. He was getting married. Stuff was happening there.
Mhm.
It was an interesting. They had things. things were happening. It was interesting. It was, and they still had that kind of 90s like realism, but still had that kind of biff bang bow. Wow, look at this thing. It's so awesome. Yet still I can sort of believe it in this DC universe, and it's really great.
Yeah, I think the thing with Superman is that oh, I just completely forgot what I was gonna say. Crap.
Take your time.
No, you go on what you were saying. I'll think of it again and I'll bring it up later.
Okay, well, yeah, I mean, they used to have these giant ass Superman panels before, like, for every year. Make you smash stuff.
Oh, I remember what I was gonna say, if you don't mind.
No, let me just finish it up.
Sure thing.
Basically, they have like these every year after this, like the end of the comic publication was done. They would just all the creators would get together in this small hotel and just map out like an entire year's worth of Superman stories.
Can I insert anecdote when you're done?
Certainly.
Okay, go ahead.
And of course, from that, they wanted to do the wedding, but
Oh, okay, you're doing my anecdote. Never mind.
Oh, yeah, the whole Lois and Clark thing, yeah.
Yeah.
By the way, that episode where they get married is terrible.
I just love that they're doing the wedding of Lois and Clark thing, and then they have to, completely scrap that plot, and they go, the guy's just been sitting there for years, let's just kill him, and then they, finally go, let's just kill him, and he's like, you just know that guy was like, oh, are you serious? I've just been fucking around back here, I don't want to do work. No.
Let's kill him! He's, drunk.
Alright, here's the link. This is the trailer for Superman Returns that I just love so much. And it's got the Jor-El background. It's so good. It proves how awesome the concept could be. And then the execution was just so poor because, this trailer just, with the whole Jesus allegory, which is actually my favorite way to do the character, representing him as, Jesus.
But a more proactive Jesus.
Well, yeah, more proactive Jesus. It's less passive, but still Jesus. I love when you
Jesus, but that kind of son from above type of a thing.
Well, no, the savior sent by the Father to
to
rescue humanity. That side of Jesus, the Messiah, if it must. But I mean, come on, it's Jesus. That's what that's what both Donner movies were. Superman is Jesus.
Especially with the second one, Donner cut.
Yeah, the Donner cut. Superman is Jesus. Jor-El is God.
Yeah.
I have questions for Jor-El when I get to heaven. There's the link to the trailer for you two and for the audience here on the video. I love this trailer so much because you get that Jor-El speech about, I sent them you, my only son, and you see the visuals and it's all so compelling, and then you see the movie and Superman comes off as a rapist and a creep and colony thing, and it's terrible.
Oh my god. I hate the guy that they had to play him because he suffered from what I like to call the dead-eye homunculus eyes. He had no...
The more I think of, the thing about Brandon Routh, I didn't like him when I first saw the movie. But the more I think about it, I really liked his casting choice because I think I'd made this point in another video. I don't feel Superman should be incredibly buff. I don't feel like he should be my size either, but I feel like Roth is about the right size for him. He should be cut, but not huge, because he's never working out. He's never really breaking a sweat, so it wouldn't make sense for him to be super ripped.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, Donner wasn't exactly the Donner films weren't. That Superman wasn't really ripped at all.
Christopher Reeve, big.
Yeah, well, he was big, but he wasn't ridiculously big.
He was tall, not muscular.
No, he was 250. He looked really muscular in that thing to me, at least.
He looked muscular. He looked muscular enough. I mean, he didn't look like the Hulk, but
Yeah. But.
True.
Yeah, what was I gonna say?
Hey, I'm gonna watch this trailer quick.
Oh, go ahead and watch it as we're talking.
Yeah, thanks, man. Oh yeah. You let him permission to watch, and you never go off on him. But whenever I say, "Hey, watch this video clip," you go off on me.
No, because this is relevant to the conversation, and I'm encouraging the viewers to watch it too while they're listening to us, Milan.
Oh, okay then.
See, we're doing kind of a commentary thing.
Oh, okay. Okay, but what do you guys think of the
Calgon,
Man
take
of
me away. That's a reference no one gets.
Okay.
Okay.
What do you guys think of the Man of Steel, teaser trailers? Because I love the Pa Kent one. Because like the Jor-El one was like, but the Pa Kent
I
one,
don't know what the
it
difference
made me
is.
cry.
Like I saw one, and then I like looked up online it again, and I saw another one, and I haven't watched it either since. So I don't even know if I saw the same one, and I don't know whose I heard because I don't remember it that well. But I did enjoy it.
Yeah, the Pa Kent one, the teaser trailer for Man of Steel. I mean, just the like it's Americana classic. It's American mythology that I love. It's like hey, remember when we were awesome? We're not that bad, and it's just like it's the perfect Americana. And just Pa Kent, like, just the speech that Pa Kent gives, it's just like the imagery of like the farm and the kid
No,
running
since we're
around
talking
with the
about
Superman
podcast,
cape.
let's bring it
And
back.
Deadliest Catch.
Yeah, that was weird. I do admit that. Like, since we're talking about Pa Kent, though, let's bring it back. In the Donner movie, the line I love from Pa Kent, and it's, one of his 10 lines in the movie, right before he dies, is you are destined for something greater.
Yeah.
And I love that line, and then they echo it later in the movie when he starts to time travel. I still need to watch that movie.
I'll admit I haven't seen it either. I just know that song.
Oh, okay.
I watched
Like-
that movie and it's amazing.
I keep hearing that, and that's the one reason I won't watch it, is because everyone tells me it's great, so it cannot possibly be that good.
It's probably one of
Well,
those movies that feels overrated but really isn't.
No, I mean,
When
like,
say
it's the
amazing,
same thing I have with Citizen Kane. I will not watch Citizen Kane because people have continuously told me it's the greatest film ever made.
No,
So I'm
It
like,
doesn't live
okay.
up to that hype. It's an amazing movie, but it's not.
Yeah, but that's the thing,
To
is
me,
I'm
at
not going
least.
to be able to enjoy it as a good movie because I'm going to be expecting the greatest movie ever made.
Ian, here's the thing. I did a review last weekend with a friend of mine about our top 10 favorite movies ever made. He put that on his list, and he was talking about how, yes, it's the greatest movie ever made, but the thing with a movie being your favorite movie, or you consider it being the greatest movie ever made, is that it has to strike you on a personal level rather than just aesthetically. Yeah, it looks great, it's revolutionary, therefore it's the greatest movie ever made. No, it's got to affect you on a level beyond that.
yeah.
And that's why it's not my favorite. That's why it's not the greatest movie ever made in my mind.
Well, no, I'm not saying in your mind, but like, I'm not going to be able to enjoy it. I'm not going to be able to appreciate it on an objective level or a personal level.
Yeah, that
because
is
in the back of my head, I'm
Okay,
thinking,
Superman.
so why do
Superman,
people
Superman.
think this is the greatest movie ever made?
I guess
And
it's really
I'll connect it
considered
to
be-
Superman. I'll connect it to Superman. Why do people think
I'll
this
like to
is the
see
greatest
that.
movie ever made? Well, why do people think Superman's the greatest superhero? Because he has the most powers? Because he was the first one? I don't get that either.
well,
And that's part of why I never I had that teenager thing of not liking Superman just because you weren't supposed to, like
Yeah.
only dorks like Superman, even though we're talking about comic book characters at this point.
Ian, I'm deeply hurt. I love Superman, and I'm 17.
Me too. He's my favorite character.
No, I'm
ever.
talking about like that 13, 14-year-old.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, well, you know
yeah.
what? Here's the thing. Back when I was that age, I had a similar mentality. I remember, I'll tell the story quick, then Milan can make his point. I was upstate with a friend of mine, and with our families too. And we were watching the Batman Superman movie for the first time. And the whole movie, we would not stop hating on Superman and just talking about how awesome Batman was. And our whole point with it all was the fact that Batman has access to kryptonite. And that was all we needed to say he was better. And I guess the thing about Superman that makes him so just people who are teenagers don't like him is just that he's so good.
He's your granddad's superhero.
Yeah, that too, but I just think that he's so good. So just like benevolent and I mean, in the animated series that it's based on, he sure as hell does stuff wrong, but I mean,
Yeah.
for the most part, the basic idea of Superman is that he does nothing wrong, so therefore he's not really interesting. He doesn't have an atmosphere to him. I'm gonna call it, and that's why I prefer Batman, because he had an atmosphere. He had a tragedy to him. Superman didn't really have one.
Why, are you kidding me? The guy's planet blew up. He's
Yes,
like
but
the
Milan, he didn't see it happen in front of his own eyes. Bruce
Yeah.
Wayne's parents were shot in front of his own eyes. And I think that the other thing about Superman is that he never has a truly personal connection to Krypton like Bruce Wayne does to his parents. I know I'm getting way off track here. I just wanted to say that I think that's where the difference between their mentalities comes in, is that Batman's parents were shot in front of his eyes. Superman's parents and his race blew up miles, light years away.
The thing that I really, I guess the World War II really made Superman the super patriot that everybody thinks of him today. I really like, the New 52 Action Comics line, because they bring him back to the, they made Superman young again, and is it so?
He's a rebel.
No, he's not.
He's wearing
not
a t-shirt and blue jeans. Like
no, that's.
He's got a
No, that,
belt off to the side. Does he really have a belt off to the side? I don't know.
No.
He's
That's
wearing
not
shorts
it.
down to his knees.
No, let me explain.
Sure.
It's not that. It's not like, oh, he's young and all that stuff. It's just he's still a nice guy. But the thing is, he's that nice all-American kid. Yeah, you like, hey, I'm an American. And it's the thing. All us immigrants think of Americans like when we what Americans are. I have my cousin in New York. He goes like, oh, when I come to America, everyone is like all cheery and wearing suits, and like all the young people don't beat you up and stab you in alleys, and it's like, oh, everyone is so he's the nice guy, and he's just like one of those kid that even if he didn't have superpowers, would go in be a fireman, go be Johnny Kent, and just help people even if he didn't have powers. Johnny Clark, yeah. And that's the thing about Superman. Even if he didn't have superpowers, I think he'd still be out there, helping, friggin' being a fireman, being a reporter, fighting for the little guy. Because that's the whole Superman. That's his whole, very first. That's where he comes from. He's the embodiment of the little guy, fighting against the corrupt businessman, the corrupt, general.
Yeah, I agree. And the thing is that Superman was raised that way, which wasn't even connected to the fact that he had powers. If Kal-El didn't exist, if he was just Clark Kent, born biologically by the Kents, he still would have probably become the Clark Kent that we know in the comics, the benevolent, guy fighting for the little guy. That's just how he was raised. So that's why I resist when people say, people who don't like Superman say that he only is a superhero because of his powers. No, he's really not, because the way
it's kind of like when people say Batman's only a superhero because he has money.
Yeah, and Grant Morrison, well, not to, Grant Morrison proved that wrong too with Batman and Zur-En-Arr.
Yeah. Hell, Chris Nolan proved that wrong.
Yeah,
he was still able to get. He proved that it wasn't his privilege that would allow him to be Batman when he climbed out of that pit.
Yeah. The thing is,
and that's the point.
Superman.
That's one of the things I liked about that movie.
Can
But
I
let's get back to Superman. I'm sorry.
Can I make this one point?
Superman.
Let me make this point about Clark Kent. You see, the whole you said Clark Kent as being raised by the Kents would be like that nice guy. And yeah, but the thing is, I think Clark Kent, the real Clark Kent, puts on a show when he's Clark Kent, the reporter, and he's around Lois and around like normal people. When actually people see him, he's like he acts all clumsy and like, oh golly gee wowzer, sir, aren't I an unthreatening little guy? And when he's just Clark Kent, like really Clark Kent, he's just like a normal guy, just a nice guy, and not like when I mean like nice for no particular reason, just a guy, just a genuinely nice guy. Mm-hmm. And when he's Superman, he really needs to put on that, like, hey, I can freaking look at you wrong, and your face would melt. And I guess he really needs to put on like, you can trust me.
Well, he doesn't really put that kind of persona. Sure.
Let me cut in before we move on. Are you done yet? Then wrap up your point, because you're going long. I have something that's relevant right now.
Okay. He doesn't put that persona on, but he accentuates it a little bit more. He's a nice guy, but he makes it a little bit more plainer. He makes it a little bit more. Look, I'm a nice guy. You can trust me. And he's a nice guy, but he has to accentuate it a little bit more when he's Superman.
Okay.
I mean, he's definitely an assertive character. Go ahead, Ian.
All right. Who here has seen Kill Bill, Volume 2? Neither of you?
Crickets.
Seriously?
Yeah, I don't watch movies that threaten my life.
Milan? Hello? Milan? Did we lose Milan?
He's dead.
Oh, well. Anyway, in Kill Bill Volume 2, when we finally meet Bill...
Oh, I've heard this speech.
Yes, the Superman speech.
Yeah.
And the point Bill makes is that the rest of the superheroes, except for Superman, put on a mask when they become the hero. They put on a persona. They put on a mask. But Superman is the only one that takes off his mask when he becomes the hero. He is Superman. He is the man in the cape and the tights. Clark Kent is the disguise. So this is a point in direct opposition to the one Milan was just making. So who's the real personality here? Which one is the more effective plot, or which one is the more effective character to write around? The character that becomes Superman, that is really Clark Kent, or the character that is really Superman but has to become Clark Kent, that has to blend into humanity?
Well, here's the thing. I think a bunch of different continuities do it in different ways, and I'll bring up two opposing ones: Lois and Clark: The New Adventures of Superman, and then of course the Christopher Reeve films. In the Christopher Reeve films, it's kind of a mix, because he's raised as Clark Kent, but he's raised as a Clark Kent that's not really bumbling. He's just kind of, a little bit geeky, a little bit nerdy, I guess is the better word. I don't want to call him geeky, 'cause that's what we are. He's a little nerdy. He's a little bit socially awkward, but he feels very alienated from everyone. And he's got to build himself up a little bit to become Superman, just personality-wise, but he still is assertive. I mean, he shows off his powers in front of those kids in the car. He's still a little assertive. But then when he gets to Metropolis, about an hour into the film, he becomes that bumbling, very un-Superman kind of character, and then he sharpens that against Superman. And Superman is really not the Clark Kent from Smallville. I think that he's putting on two different personas, in that the real Clark Kent is the guy sitting in the Fortress of Solitude listening to Jor-El.
But that's the thing, is we don't see that character for more than 2 minutes of the movie.
Well, we see him a little bit also. Remember the scene after he goes flying with Lois, and he comes in as Clark Kent to pick her up for their date, and he's playing around with the notion of telling her that he's Superman. He takes off his glasses, puts up his, by the way, amazing performance moment by Christopher Reeve. He pulls off his glasses, sits up his posture, and goes, "Lois, I have something to tell you." But then he shrinks back down into Clark. It's an amazing piece of acting, but it's also, for that brief millisecond, you get to see the mid-ground, the real Clark Kent, the one who has selfish desires.
Yeah.
And that's definitely played with more in the second movie, particularly the Donner cut.
Yeah.
And the scene where Lois figures out he is Superman, like, for sure, with the gun. God, I don't think Christopher Reeve could have delivered a more perfect performance. Like, that's the thing. You watch that, and that was a screen test.
Yeah.
Because they had to save the
I like it better than the actual one in the Superman 2 film.
Oh, definitely, because one was directed by Donner, and one was directed by, what's his name, Lester. But, like, you see Lois, just for those that haven't seen it, Lois is absolutely convinced that Clark Kent is Superman. And they're in a hotel room alone together, and they're having an argument about her not being happy being there with Clark, how she wants to be there with Superman. And she pulls out a gun and points it at Clark, and he's, trying to talk her out of it. And then she pulls the trigger, bang! And he's unharmed, and, like, you just see him go through that transition where he just becomes Superman in front of her. Like, he goes from, the slash over to just the look of determination. And she's like, oh, you just feel it, and the music comes in, and it's, it's perfect. It's one of the few perfect moments in a film. Like, there are good films, but then there are, like, those moments in film that are just absolutely amazing. Like, you could
Yeah.
take that performance, you can put it anywhere,
Mhm.
and it's automatically good.
Superman 4, no.
No, if that
Oh
scene
my
happened in
God.
Superman 4, it would have been a perfect moment in a horrendous movie.
A piece of gold in a pile of shit.
I didn't say it would make the movie good. I said it would be a great performance, no matter where you go. Like, there's nothing that can dull that performance.
And if I may continue with my comparative thing, and then you jump over to Lois and Clark: The New Adventures of Superman, which I don't know about you guys, but I've seen every episode because I'm an obsessive freak.
Never seen a episode.
Okay, well, so here's the thing. In that series, it's the complete opposite. He is Clark Kent becoming Superman because he becomes Superman before he finds out anything about Krypton, which is interesting. Well, interesting / makes no sense. But more interesting. And he clearly defines this in a scene later on where he says, Clark Kent is who I am. Superman is what I can do. And I really like that line, and it's a very different take on Superman because very clearly Superman is the performance. Just when you see him as Superman, it's an act. Clark is a lot more real. He has moments of, maybe I don't want to say childishness, but like moments of like selfish indulgence.
All right, well, the way you did this was wrong, Bill. Not to criticize you harshly, but to criticize you harshly. The way you made your point there, while good, was wrong. Because you went from an example that was in the mid-ground to an example that was on one side, but you didn't give an example on the other side. So you gave the example of the real personality definitely is Clark Kent, and the, Clark Kent that works at the Daily Planet is an act, but the Superman is just as much an act. Then you gave the Christopher Reeve example where it's definitely a character right in the middle who is going between parts of it, but is definitely something between the two and not just one person acting as another.
Would All-Star
But
Superman be considered...
yes, exactly. All-Star is the example on the other side. All-Star is
Yeah.
an example of the character that is Superman and
Yeah.
acts like Clark Kent.
Yeah.
And that, to me, is my number one Superman story. And the thing is, I actually waited until the movie came out and watched the movie before I read the books. And the point that a lot of people make about the movie is it cut too much out and you can't really understand the full scope of the story. And I absolutely disagree. I feel like if you don't have the comic beforehand in your head, the story is just as effective, but the comic adds more to it.
Yeah.
Well, I think the movie feels more clunky as a movie.
No, I had no problems watching it. I had no problems with pacing or anything. And keep in mind, I have a 3-year-old that comes over all the time and wants to watch it, so I've seen that movie so many times.
Are you saying All-Star Super? You mean the cartoon movie of All-Star Superman? Or
Yeah.
are we talking about Superman Oh, okay. I thought you were talking about Superman Returns.
No, All-Star Superman is a fantastic movie, and it demonstrates a Superman that is Superman and pretends to be Clark Kent.
Yeah. So
You know
those
what
are
I
our three
really like
examples.
I love the fact that in the comic book, he quietly draws Clark Kent as all like slouched over, and he looks kind of chubby. But when he becomes Superman, his back straightens, and he looks built like, oh my god. Of course, and his hair he has like this little, he draws his hair back, and it's like, oh my god. Of course, nobody would think that's Superman.
Yeah.
It's a great thing. The one thing that I wish
Yeah.
was in the animated movie, just because this segment would have been so cool in animation, I have no idea how it got cut, was
Yeah.
the game of fetch.
Yeah.
Why would you cut that?
Yeah.
That would have been
Oh my
amazing in
God.
animation.
Yeah, issue 6.
Oh, that would have been amazing in animation. I love that scene.
Mm.
Like, I liked the date, but come on, man. Fetch with Crypto on the moon with a tree trunk. Come on. That was awesome.
I love Crypto so much.
But his show sucked balls.
I never watched it.
Yeah.
Though.
Well,
You
okay.
must really be obsessive. Jesus Christ,
Well,
man.
no, I saw it when it was on. When I was around the age group it was targeted at.
Oh, okay. I was about to say, if you went and, like, download...
No. I saw it
You,
when
like,
it was
watched
on.
every single
Like,
episode,
we're
like
stopping
the
the
day
call right
before.
now. We're stopping the call, and we're getting Bill help. Geeky Gentleman will return next week, and we'll see if Bill can come out of Arkham Asylum.
Mr. Zanzibar, what exactly is wrong with you? Well, I actually seeked out Crypto the Superdog, the animated series.
This man is sick!
And the Joker is just like, dude.
Dude, that's fucked up.
Oh my god, like the day before, he literally downloaded every single episode and watched them all the way through, like through the night, and he just finished the last one the minute we started recording.
No, I'd probably kill myself. It's terrible.
No, then you'd start looking for like special features and stuff
I want to
like-
see the commentary. See what the themes are.
for every episode. Oh my god. Uh,
Oh.
So, Lex Luthor.
Lex Luthor is a fantastic character, and I'm tired of people saying Lex Luthor doesn't need to be the villain in the movie. No, he should always be there. He just doesn't need to be the main guy. Like, Lex Luthor, in my opinion, should never... Like, I hate Lex Luthor in his robot suit. I love Lex Luthor doing his shady business deals. I love Lex Luthor benefiting from... No matter what Superman does, I love Lex Luthor benefiting from it in some way. I love Lex Luthor when he's behind the scenes and just, you know, I don't think Lex Luthor should be a mad scientist. I have no problem with him, you know, doing science and giving weapons and machinery and stuff to other villains, but I never want to see Lex Luthor go to prison.
But I do love the progression of that in the animated continuity.
Yeah.
In the animated continuity, it was one thing, but still, I liked it much more. I'm trying to remember.
I think
It was
Lex Luthor,
was it Black? Was it the Black Glove or not Black Glove? Black Ring or whatever it was. The Action Comics run that he was in. He had the point at the very beginning where he was like, "That's the thing," or someone called him in his personal bunker, and they're like, "Come on, Lex, you're one of us. You should totally be." And he's like, "That's the thing. I'm not one of you. I'm not one of the rogues or the villains. I'm something more." And I was just so he shouldn't see himself as that. I don't mind when he teams up with the villains. I just never want him to get caught. I never because then he loses face, and that's the most important thing to him is keeping face. You know?
Yeah. But the thing is, I like the kind of, battle suit because, I love the shady man Lex. I absolutely adore that. But if you think about it, Lex's personality, he'd start to get so pissed off. Like, I want to beat up Superman with my bare hands, but I can't.
And that's why
that
was like the greatest scene in Superman Doomsday. By the way.
Yeah, where he beats him up at the kryptonite brat like Knuckles. Oh, so cool.
Yeah.
And it's a clone because he wants to do it himself. So
cool. My god. And that's another thing, like, with the Batman and the Joker and Superman and Lex Luthor. I mean, the villains all kind of had, like, sort of a semi-hateful man crush on the hero, if you think about it. I mean,
Lex has a distinct hatred for Superman.
I know, but Sid mentioned this before, but in the Black Ring Action Comics before the New 52, I love that whole series, but you get into Lex Luthor's head, and he basically there's a scene where he goes like, okay, he's with the robot Lois in his own head, and there's a giant monster, and he goes, if you were really here, I would have wiped your memory. And he basically jumps at the giant monster, rips open his shirt. This looks like a job for Lex Luthor, and he wants to be Superman so bad. And
he wants to be Superman, but that's just because people see Superman as the greatest thing ever, and Lex wants people to see him as the greatest thing ever. Have either of you read Lex Luthor Man of Steel?
I haven't, too, though.
No, I
Fantastic
haven't.
novel, and that's the reason why I hate Joker is because Lex Luthor was so good. Hate Joker? I hate the book Joker. I despise that novel. That is if I could, I would burn every copy. If I could, I would burn the words off of every copy and just keep it as a picture book.
Hold on. Is this a graphic novel or an actual novelization?
Joker, the graphic novel written by Azzarello.
Maho and Brian Azzarello.
Azzarello, okay. I don't. Yeah, you really hate that fucking thing, don't you?
Dude, it is the worst Joker story ever told, hands down. And it's so disappointing because it's some of the best Joker art ever.
Yeah.
And it's so disappointing because Lex Luthor, Man of Steel, written by the same man, was so good and so spot on for Lex Luthor.
Mm-hmm.
The point I wanted to make about Lex Luthor, Man of Steel, is you had a Lex that was simultaneously doing a lot of, really groundbreaking scientific stuff, and he was doing a lot of really interesting supervillain stuff, manipulating Batman and which is probably the low point of that book because it's not explained very well, but still. Manipulating Batman and making deals with the other supervillains and stuff, but he was so in the background and just this driving force behind it all. And he had that same status in Metropolis that Obama had when he was campaigning in 2008. Just everybody loves this guy. He was so damn charismatic, and he comes off just like this golden boy of Metropolis, and it was so perfect and it was so good. And then at the end, everything's just revealed, the cloth is lifted. Aletheia occurs, and it is amazing to see how sick this individual is and how obsessed. And when you see the means that he goes to for this obsession, to feed his desires, his base desires, and his ego, when you see how he actually hurts himself deeply just to get at Superman, it is fantastic.
And there's a great point in the Justice League animated series that kind of adds to that as well. He gets cancer from having too much kryptonite.
That was a good one.
So great.
That actually came from the comics.
Did it? I was not aware of that.
That came from the comics before it was cloned Lex Luthor.
Oh, all right, okay. Before he infected his son's body with his own intellect.
Something like that. I don't even know how it works.
He's got long red hair. Oh my god.
Alexander Luthor.
Yeah.
And Robot Supergirl. There's so many things. Like, that's what killed me, no lie, when we were switching over to New 52. It's like, we don't want to memorize a whole new continuity, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, you guys forget half the continuity that's still active right now. That's not even Lex Luthor. That's a clone. What happened to Robot Supergirl? What happened to Robot Supergirl that dated Lex Luthor? Come on now. What are you guys talking about? This is ridiculous.
What about Robot Lois Lane? That was fucking creepy in the Action Comics. Like, he has a robot that's a Lois robot based on fucking Brainiac technology. That is just fucking... Oh my god, that is so creepy. He sleeps with it, and it's like, oh my god.
What?
He sleeps with the Lois robot in Action Comics. Oh my god.
Can I still apply to Arkham Asylum?
No. Here at Arkham Asylum, our halls, like that every time I think about that game, that's where my head goes. The fucking commercial for the asylum advertising itself. If your family member ever checks you into Arkham Asylum, there should be a policy where the nurse takes you in the wheelchair, wheels you around the desk, you get up, and then they force the person that brought you there into the wheelchair because that was just a horrible idea and they could not possibly be in their right minds, and then they wheel that person off. And you say, ha!
Oh, that's clever. Yeah.
I don't care if you're sitting around talking about seeing monkeys flying in the sky and
you're just watching The Wizard of Oz.
Yeah. I don't. There is a point, if anyone checks you into Arkham Asylum as a loving family member, they do not love you. They have mental problems.
Or they just hate you to the point of somebody must really fucking hate you to check you into Arkham Asylum. Oh, here you go, Grandpa. Don't worry. You'll be fine.
You remember when you raped me when I was a child? We're even.
We'll cure that Alzheimer's quickly.
Yeah.
Hey, Grandpa, you remember when you sexually abused me as a child? No, you don't, because you have Alzheimer's? Well, we're even now.
Welcome to Arkham.
Yeah,
Joker, I have a present for you.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, no, no.
Anyway, actually, let's connect Arkham. Strikers Island.
Oh god.
I was thinking about our conversation about Arkham last week, and that led me thinking about Strikers because Bill brought up the point that nothing is quite as notable as Arkham. And it occurred to me that the scene in Superman vs. the Elite where they have Atomic Skull hooked up to the generator that's providing the city with power.
Yeah.
It occurred to me that you could tell a very interesting story about Strikers Island, paralleling it with Arkham Asylum, where you show how terrible Arkham is, like with its conditions and how it treats people, but you know the doctors there, as, you know, bad as they are at it, are genuinely trying to help these people.
Yeah.
Now, you got that with the Arkham books, but whenever you go to Strikers, it always seems like they don't like these people. They kind of just wish they could kill them, but they can't manage it. And then they seem to be abusing them like they were with Atomic Skull. Like, well, we're just going to use you for power. Like, we're going to make you the hamster in a wheel. It seems like you could really tell a very interesting story where you have an extended metaphor about how, you know, Arkham's dirty. Arkham's, you know, physically it's you know, dusty. It's got, you know, mold. But you go to Strikers and it's spick and span, clean as a whistle. But really, the fucked up ones, the people running the places that really have issues, believe it or not, it's at Strikers to me.
Yeah. Because the thing is, at least at Arkham, they're trying. And
Mhm.
Strikers
Yeah.
is like, fuck you, you're
Yeah, like that's the
you're a
thing.
hindrance to society. Welcome to
Yeah.
Strikers. We're gonna use you for power.
Yeah, and that's
Yeah.
the thing.
and
Again, if
it's
you
the
go
whole
to
mad
Strikers, you'd have that
scientist
same kind of problem that what's his face did in Shawshank Redemption, where he made himself useful to the prison, and then they just didn't want to let him out.
Oh crap.
You know,
Oh my
like
God.
he was doing all the guards' taxes, and then when it came time where he could have had a chance to leave the prison, you know, in the right way as an
Yeah.
innocent man, they wouldn't let him out because he had a service to provide. Now he was useful to them. So it occurs to me you
Yeah.
can tell a very interesting story with Strikers like that.
And with Strikers, you in Metropolis in general, you just have a ridiculous amount of mad scientists. I just like people who like, you know, experiment with genetics, and it's clean, and that's the dark side of Metropolis that I really like. Sure, it's clean and all that stuff, and it's, you know, like futurism and all the blah 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 blah. But the thing is, you better make sure you keep all your DNA to yourself, because people are probably making clones of you right now.
Actually, no lie, I was thinking about that the other day. I have long hair and eczema, so like, you know, constantly I'm just bleeding and leaving hair and skin cells all over the place in my house, and
Jeez.
you know, sometimes in public. So it occurs to me, if someone really wanted to clone me, it would be very easy for them to get my DNA. I mean,
Yeah.
there's obviously a problem here with where they're going to get the $6 billion or whatever you need to clone me, but if you want an Ian clone, you don't have to work that hard on the DNA part.
I just died for about 30 seconds.
Oh, so you didn't hear my point about me being a clone?
Nope.
Nope. Okay.
No.
Well, you're gonna have to listen to the podcast again.
No,
This
oh,
isn't a
okay.
pod. Actually, no, wait. I lied. It is a podcast. If you go to podmatic.com, you can download the podcast temporarily. They only let me store about 500 megabytes at a time, so that's about 2 to 3 episodes at a time that'll be up, and we'll rotate those out regularly. It'll just be the audio for this. You won't get the intro sketches or anything like that. So you
Yeah.
also have a reason to keep watching the videos, everybody.
Yeah.
Yep.
Link in the
Actually, no.
description.
Yeah.
Watch it, or we'll find you.
Yes, and we will do terrible things to your family and
Terrible
make you watch.
Someone comes home, like their entire family is like tied up and dead, and there's like a bloody writing on the wall that says "Watch Geeky, gentlemen."
Here's an idea, Bill. Let's not give the cops our address.
Oh God.
Oh.
Just
Oh my God.
throwing that out there. Let's
Hold
not.
on, we need
the
a couple
clue.
tickets to Australia, just so we can get out of here.
Okay, but are you guys all willing to live in a shed in the outback with
No.
giant spiders?
I
Well,
watched
I'll go to
fucking
Australia
Crocodile
and I'll just,
Dundee. I know how to live in Australia.
Milan, I'll go to
Oh my-
Australia and I'll just like invent like the Xbox or not even the Xbox. I'll just like invent the stove because I'm pretty sure you guys don't have those. And like
Oh,
I'll just
no,
be rich.
Milan, do you
No,
have microwaves over there?
No, actually, we just cook everything open, just on an open fire.
Oh, okay, see, perfect. Bill,
You
you
guys
and I...
actually have fire?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't
It's,
even.
we only got it like last week, and it's so great. God.
Belong, did you get the fire 2.0?
You gotta get that
Oh,
upgrade, man. You gotta get that
No,
upgrade.
You gotta get
Go
the
to the
kerosene fire,
iStore
man.
and get the Fire 2.0. It comes
my
with
God.
torches.
It's
This really cool thing.
kerosene
You can,
thing.
it makes it portable. It's awesome.
Really? It's portable. God
Yeah.
damn.
And now you can also put the fire out with water.
Wow.
I don't think
really?
they're ready for water over there, man. I don't think they're ready
No,
for
we have
water.
plenty of. Oh, actually, no. We need water. There's no water here. It's just that one giant desert with kangaroos that eat people.
So anyway, Superman.
Back to Superman.
Yeah. Superman.
Well, no, see, this is relevant because, Superman was once fighting Muhammad Ali and, boxing. People used to box kangaroos, so there we go. Bam.
That is
Yeah,
relevant.
Yeah.
Wow, Stretch Armstrong over here. I just totally ripped you off from last week.
Yep, but the thing is, last week I started with that joke,
Yeah.
and that was an awesome way to start.
You made me feel like shit. Haha.
Yeah. Let's talk about Superman because we're starting to get way off topic.
That's okay.
I was
We don't
gonna be
mind
Superman for
jumping
Halloween.
around on topics here. Because,
Okay.
say it with me now, here on Sid Part 2's channel, we embrace the
We
change.
embrace the tangents.
Yeah. Awesome.
Inactivity and laziness. That's why I subscribed.
Yeah.
I brought back that joke.
A month later.
Ha, We've got repeating storylines on this show now.
Yeah, continuity. Awesome. Long time
Yeah.
listeners.
Continuity.
Okay, anyway, back to Superman. And I think we're getting close to wrapping up here. We didn't talk much about All-Star, and I want to talk a little bit more about that. Because that is definitely my favorite Superman story. Like I said, I think the best way to do a Superman story is to make him Jesus. And instead of having him die, it's the sacrifices of his life, his personal life as Clark
12
Kent.
labors.
What?
His 12 labors.
Oh, we want to go with the Hercules metaphor too. But I think this, instead of the physical human sacrifice, I think it's the sacrifice of his life, his personal life, that makes him compelling. You see, he's not giving up, his being, his pulse. He's not giving up his physical life for us, but he's giving up his ability to have a social life. And that sounds pathetic when you say social. Think about it. Never getting to really be with anyone. And that was one of the big complaints about the New 52 was, oh, why is he divorced, or aren't he and Lois married anymore? But it was great when you saw that first issue of, well, beyond that. When you saw that first issue of Superman where he goes to Lois's apartment at the very end of the book, and there's a guy there, and he just
And she's
walks
boning
back
someone.
and he walks back to the elevator, and he's just, head held down, and no one's there to see him, so it's not the Clark Kent persona. It's not the bumbling idiot.
Oh yeah, I love that. I love that first 6-issue run of Superman. I think it's great because of that.
Yeah, and then he
And
can
that's-
hear
that-
what they're saying, and it's like, and he can hear what they're saying. It's like, and the guy's like, hey, maybe the guy's sweet on you, and Lois is like, nah, look, Clark, come on, he never showed any interest in me before. He's just a dude, and it's like, oh, poor Clark.
Yeah, and here's the interesting thing about Superman. I was gonna bring this up before, but I forgot my point. The thing is that Superman doesn't really have time to brood. I mean, sure, it's not part of his it's not part of his nature anyway because of who he was raised by. Brooding is just not something you do on a farm.
Yeah,
But he also just doesn't have.
on a farm.
I have.
Really?
me too. Yeah,
I have a house upstate.
Oh, that's right. I keep forgetting.
Oh, it's cool. Anyway, excuse me. Superman doesn't really have time to brood. I mean, Batman, he skulks on top of rooftops to find criminals. He's got time to brood, and he's got a reason to brood. Superman is flying over the earth, constantly going down to stop a disaster, stop a criminal, fight a mad scientist, whatever.
Have
He
you
doesn't
seen
really
the
have time
Monkey and
to-
Apple video of Superman?
What video?
Monkey and Apple video?
I have not.
Monkey and Apple. What's that?
Hold on, I'm gonna find it and then I'm gonna link it and we're gonna do a commentary. But Bill, keep talking. I'm sorry.
Sure, I was just gonna say that Superman doesn't have really time to brood. He doesn't have. Well, he has. Maybe he has some reason, but he just doesn't have time to brood. He just doesn't feel like it's necessary. Like he feels like he's got better things to do than just sit on a satellite and brood.
Yeah, that's a waste of time.
Sit on a satellite. That's
I think that would be a cool image. Just have Superman just like sitting on top of a satellite, just staring down at the Earth, kind of depressed. But I wouldn't want it to happen because that's just not part of his persona.
Okay, everyone get that link ready and get the video ready to play because it made me think about this. And this was probably one of the funniest Superman spoofs I've ever seen. And this is I'm gonna make a point about Monkey and Apple.
I'm liking ads.
What?
Never mind.
I'm gonna make a point about Monkey and Apple. His stuff is great when it's short. Otherwise, it gets kind of long and extended. So you guys got the video all queued up and ready to go?
Yar.
Yep. Yar.
Okay. Play.
I'm loving the fake hair.
So we're not gonna talk. Well, what? We're just okay then.
Oh my god. Jesus Christ.
Oh. Oh my god.
Wait for it.
Oh my god. Oh.
Wow.
Okay, you guys, it's cut to black, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
That just, you made me think about that while you were talking.
Well,
Bill.
thanks, Ian, for ruining my image of Superman.
Well, come on, you admit that is hilarious in a dark, twisted way.
Oh.
You have to admit that's hilarious in a twisted way.
That's
In a
just,
very in a very twisted way, yes.
oh my god. I think
Like,
we should
that's-
end on that.
That's actually, we're about to. That's the extreme version of the scene from Superman Doomsday where he starts threatening the old lady with her cat.
Yeah.
Little bit of commentary there. And we were really quiet throughout, but it's just I hope you guys watched the video. If not, that was like 2 minutes of silence from us and just giggling.
Just totally just being just starstruck.
And that's one of those things. It's a very significant problem with Superman's character when you see him doing things like that, and you know these terrible crimes are being committed throughout the world, and he's totally able to stop them. But you see him, get a cat out of a tree or just do that stupid crap.
But it'd be interesting to see if that was brought up in his character more, like he feels that way. But I think he ultimately have to come to the understanding that it's not his fault. That despite as much he hides it, he is human.
Yeah, he is.
I don't know.
He's not
I don't know.
omnipotent,
I
for
feel like
Christ's
it's one of those things. Like he obviously can't be everywhere at once. But when you see, it seems like he should prioritize more.
And it's
Yeah,
not
but
like
that's
he
also
goes
the
around.
interesting thing is that what does he do? Does he save the girl who's drowning or save the girl who's about to get raped?
Definitely the good point
And he
there.
saves
I was
both?
talking about, like, I'm just saying, you see him do the things like, get a cat out of a tree. And that's like one of the really iconic things you see Superman do a lot. It comes up a lot in not only comics but cartoons and movies and everything.
In the first Donner film and Superman Doomsday.
Yeah, you see it happen a lot, and it's just one of those things you're like, but aren't there other things going on? And you wonder about that. You're right, Bill. Your point is completely valid. It's how do you decide which one's more important if you can only get to one? And that was one of the
isn't it
interesting
scary
things.
that he can decide or that he
Yeah.
does decide?
And that was one of the really interesting points that was made about or in Superman Returns when it was one of the really good scenes is he's talking to Lois and he says, "You say people don't need a Superman, but from up here, I hear them calling for me every second of every day." And that's not verbatim. That was the quote that he used, and it's one of those things. It's one of the few gray areas that Superman has of how does he prioritize that, and I don't think it's a question we'll be able to answer. So I think on that note, we're gonna end the video, unless you guys have anything else you want to throw in.
I have something else. I want to talk about the depiction of Superman as like the ultimate patriot, and that when he has like an idea in his head, he doesn't let it go. And I like to bring up Superman and Red Son because I don't know. There's something about the depiction of Superman that when he gets an ideology in his head, he sticks by that like no matter what. And I don't know. I guess if he was raised by communists, I suppose.
Which he was in that book.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
He was. I know, but the fact that when they portray him as like the ultimate Republican Superman, no, Superman is not.
I don't think Superman's bullheaded. I feel like he's just the way he's raised. I feel Superman has an argument for nature versus nurture. I feel like the way Superman is raised really does affect who he is, because you see that change a lot from time to time. When he's raised by the Kents, he's great. When he's raised by Darkseid, he's evil. When he's raised by the communists, he's a communist.
Great episode of Superman TAS, by the way.
Yeah, it's amazing episode of Superman TAS.
Yeah.
But like the thing that I found interesting is Jeff Johns went completely against that in Flashpoint. When he wrote Superman as, raised inside a cell, he owes humanity nothing because he was kept away from the sun his entire life and was treated like a lab rat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And yet Flash made the point that he's Superman, he's going to be good. And ultimately in Flashpoint, Superman does the right thing. He comes through and does the Superman thing.
I don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah. It's an interesting point. It's one of those other things, and it's like I don't know. Is Superman an argument for nature or nurture?
Yeah, I don't know.
Which one is more effective? Which one do you feel is better? Do you feel it's better when Superman is good because that's how he was raised, or do you feel it's better if Superman is good because he's Superman?
I think it has to do with a little bit of both, but it all really depends on the writer.
And isn't that where we come down on this topic?
Yeah, it all depends on the writer, and I think that's the end of the video right here. So thanks, guys. Thanks for joining us this week. It was great, a lot of fun. One of our shorter videos, but not by much.
What a twist!
Still an hour and a half long.
Yeah. Real quick, Bill, you weren't aware, but we're gonna be doing RoboCop next week because Blue Dragon 5 sent me a request for the RoboCop films. How many are there?
3.
3? Okay, so yeah, we're gonna do the trilogy if you guys don't
What
mind
about
that.
the TV show? What about the
Fine.
TV show?
We're not
No,
doing the TV show.
No, I'm not
No.
watching more than I have to already.
Okay.
Because there's a
Bill
cheap
is-
box set I can get for RoboCop. Let me buy that and be done with it.
Yeah, well, like I thought it'd be a good topic because it
Well,
gives
it's also
all of
slightly
us
relevant.
something to talk about. I can talk about the political intrigue and the moral philosophy there, and the social criticism. You can talk about the monster aspect of it, and Milan can of course relate to being a hideous freak that no one loves. Bye.
Why'd you get so excited that it was a plane?
I don't know. It's a plane. I mean, you see it every day, but
Yeah, you figure it's just like, and then him with the bird. I mean,
yeah, and
it's a bird. It's what?
who
What are you
cares?
getting?
I don't. It's a